Hi, I'm Renarta Clanton Moyd. I'm a communications specialist with the Cumberland County Schools and your host of Get Connected. During this monthly show, we highlight numerous educational topics that face today's student, educator, and parent in the Cumberland County Schools. Now, positive behavior intervention and support, or PBIS, is a process for creating safer and more effective schools. It's a systematic approach to enhancing the capacity of schools to educate all children by developing research-based, school-wide, and classroom behavior support systems. This initiative focuses on improving a school's ability to teach and support positive behavior for all students. Now, after this break, we'll talk with some educators from the Cumberland County Schools about this process and the success it's seen on this edition of Get Connected.
Mom and Dad, we need you to be involved in our school, because when you are, we get better grades and have a higher rate of graduation. It could be as simple as stopping you to read a haiku. Hey, we're not demanding like your boss, but we need you to be involved in our school, and maybe even get us a pony.
Hear what your kids are saying. Get more involved. Join your local PTA.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
Again, thanks for joining us for this edition of Get Connected, where we're talking with Christopher Figgs, the coordinator of PBIS, Anne Marie Palmer, the principal at Warrenwood Elementary School, and Lisa Popish, a teacher at Alderman Road Elementary School. Chris, Anne Marie, Lisa, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, so let's jump in. PBIS stands for, again,
Positive behavior, intervention, and support.
See, we practiced that really well.
We got that part.
Now, exactly what is PBIS?
PBIS is an initiative that has been in Cumberland County now for almost eight to 9 years, and it's growing. It started off very small with just one school, and now we've grown to over almost 40 schools who are implementing PBIS, and it is a framework that is really about teaching students the expected behaviors. And once you teach the students the expected behaviors, we begin now to emphasize on that positive behavior. What are they doing right? And from there we begin to reward them for the right behaviors rather than looking for those punitive things that culture has taught us to look for, to focus on the negative. So now we're focusing on the positive, and it's really making a difference in our school system.
Now, don't our kids just naturally come to school, or our young people just naturally come to school knowing how to behave?
Well, I think one thing that we're faced with is values are changing across the country. And so in different households, there are different expectations for behavior. So when students come to school, it's very similar to them not being able to read. When they come to us, we show them the expectations for reading, and we show them those same explicit expectations for behavior with PBIS.
The other thing with that is they're in a different environment. So the behavior that you would have at home is going to be different than the behavior that you might have at church, which is going to be different than what you would expect in the classroom. And with PBIS, we don't just teach expectations in the classroom. We also, what do I want to see in the hallway? What do we want to see at assemblies? What do we want to see in the cafeteria? Because every time you change your environment, you have that opportunity to make a choice of either making a negative behavior or a positive one.
And I would assume that after a certain amount of time, the behavior changes. and it becomes a part of the young person.
It does, and one of the things that we're trying to focus on is creating a positive climate within our schools. So many times our schools have had such negative stigmas that now we take this opportunity to build the character of the student, which enhances the character at home. So now those individuals who were reluctant to come into the school building because of the negative stigma, now I feel like they're more willing to come and see, well, what's going on with my child? Or what is this PBIS, or the bear bucks, or paws that they're receiving? What does that mean, and how can I get involved?
Okay. Now, with that in mind, I want to ask, what does PBIS look like at Warrenwood Elementary, Anne-Marie?
Well, I think that's one of the things that makes PBIS a really beautiful initiative. It looks different at every school. We were able to pull together a group of teachers and staff members, involve parents and students in really building it from the ground up, so it would be tailored to our students, our population, and our staff. At Warrenwood, we have several initiatives in place so that we very clearly at the beginning of the year have used videos that our teachers have made with our very own students, showing expected behavior in all parts of the building. As you mentioned, we don't just talk about the classroom, we talk about the hallways, the cafeteria, even the restroom. So every part of the building that students are expected to be in, we explicitly teach them at the beginning of the year how to behave in those areas. Then we, throughout the year, focus on those during our morning announcements, during assemblies that we have, especially at the times where we return from breaks where students have had a long time away from us. We reestablish those connections. One of the things that we do at Warrenwood is we give out dog tags for appropriate behavior. Students earn tickets in the classroom and around the building. They can earn class tickets for good behavior, whether they're walking in the hallway. I gave out class tickets this morning for 5th graders going on the field trip. So they do an excellent job really understanding that these tangible rewards are things that we are giving them as a treat, but at the same time we're asking them to really follow through with those behaviors on a daily basis. And then those treats are not monetary, they're not candy, they're not toys. We are expecting them to really have pride in themselves, and they carry that throughout the whole school building.
Okay. Now, how does it look at Alderman Road?
At Alderman, the process itself is very similar. At the very beginning, when we started our groundwork, we surveyed the children, we surveyed the teachers, we surveyed parents as to what the behaviors are that they would like to see around our building, including the buses, because we have a large clientele that rides the bus. We also took a look at what the expectations are. What do the children want to see the behaviors to be? What do the teachers, and then what do the parents expect? So we kind of surveyed everyone. Once we did that, we agreed, we took a matrix, we put our matrix of what our expectations are. Every classroom has a copy of that matrix, which we make sure that they revisit frequently. We teach the matrix at the beginning of the school year and revisit again, at those times, especially after Christmas and at Easter when they start to get that spring break. And our incentives are very similar. They receive bear paws, and they can receive bear paws from anyone. And I always remind the children that once they're earned, they can't be taken away, because we don't want anyone to fall back into that negative, well, I've seen you do something wrong and take it back. Once they've earned, it's earned. But we also remind them that they have to earn it. So if you ask for a bear paw, the answer will always be no. You have to be caught doing the right thing. At the beginning of the year, we use it more for shaping behavior. And complimenting that child. I like the way that you're sitting on the carpet, and then all of a sudden you see all the children sitting up and doing what they're supposed to do. And about this time now, we see that the children start to wean off of even looking for the bear paw because the behavior is expected. And we've been in the process now for a while, and we have been able to see our kindergarten children when we started now in 6th grade. And the 6th grade teachers are even commenting on the behaviors that our children have.
It's truly changed.
It surely has. And even our office referrals, our discipline referrals, are down significantly since we've implemented PBIS.
Now, some people listening or watching rather might think, well, is it right to give kids, or young people, rewards for behavior? I mean, talk to me about that. What's the thought?
When you begin to think about it, it's just like when students come to school to learn, and they begin to learn, whether it's reading or writing, you know, they do the work and then they're graded. So it's saying, because you did what was expected of you, this is what you earned. And the same is with us as adults. You know, when we do what's expected of us, whether it's coming to work, you know, some of us may be late, but we get there and we do our job. And when we've completed the job as expected, you know, we keep our job, which to me, in this economy, is a rewarding itself.
Right
yes,
on
ma'am.
that.
It's something that we go so that we can stabilize ourselves. So I mean, it's kind of the way that the world has always been. You know, you listen to people say, well, you shouldn't reward students for doing what they are supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
But I mean, we use it as a way, as Lisa said, to shape that behavior. You know, if a child is never told that they're doing a great job, how do they know? So this is our opportunity now to focus on that positive, to let them know that, you know, in spite of what may be happening, you are doing the right thing, and because you're doing the right thing, this is my way of saying thank you.
And human nature is, you want to know you're doing a good job. And, you know, the other thing is you want to be noticed. So our children have the opportunity to be noticed in a positive way.
And a lot of what we do is the external way of praising our students. And I don't think anybody would have anything wrong to say about praising our children for doing a good job. And that's what we do on a daily basis. And as Lisa mentioned earlier, you know, we go from extrinsic rewards toward the beginning of the year, and we really do back off so that these are intrinsic things that the students understand. They take pride in being good around the school building and getting noticed for being good.
And, you know, I love the initiative in itself, but one of the things that I really came to love with working with PBIS, and I've shared this with a lot of people before, is that there's 3 different types of students in our classroom. There's those high achievers, you know, who are on the A honor roll, and then always doing the right thing. And then you have those students that I like to call it the cheers mentality, where everybody knows their name. And then you have that subgroup of students who, you know, they may not be A students, but then also not get in trouble. So now with teachers who are now changing their mindset and begin to look for positive behavior rather than always focusing on the negative behavior, we're now seeing those students who regularly wouldn't be, you know, receive that pat on the back. So they're getting involved, and, you know, now they're not falling into any kind of group, because if a child realizes that the only way they're going to get your attention is by acting up, you're going to have a class full of students who are going to start to act out so that they can get the attention that they want.
Makes very good sense. And you know what, I know when we did the radio interview, Christopher, a couple of times I said, oh, PBIS, nice program. You cut that. No, it's not a program. A framework,
It's a framework.
a process, or an initiative.
Yes, ma'am. We try to stay away from the word program because so many programs come and go. And PBIS, even though we say it's something new, PBIS is a framework that teachers have been using from the very beginning of teaching, you know, because when we want children to understand something, we first teach, and then we model, and then we practice, and then in the end we kind of, you know, we test them on it. So now, as we teach our children what PBIS is and how it works within our buildings, now they have the chance to practice and model, and at the end of the year we feel like they passed the test.
Also, I think, I'm sorry, I think when people hear program, they think magic dust, that you're going to bring it in and it's going to save, you know, it's going to save all of our problems and everything's going to be wonderful. When you look at the process, then you understand this isn't going to be something that's going to happen overnight, that it's going to take a year or 2 or even 3, because you have to shape that behavior. You've got to get everybody on board, and that includes the teachers, the students, and the parents.
And as I mentioned before, you know, it can look very different from school to school. It really depends on the team that you have within the building that begins that, it's a creative process, establishing what PBIS is going to look like in your building.
I'm sorry, programs are so prepackaged and they cost.
Cookie cutter.
Cookie cutter programs. And with PBIS, the cost that comes with it is what you want to do to make it work in your building, not necessarily the, you know, buy this package for $3,000 and things that happen. But now teachers are building what they feel like is going to happen, and it's working.
Okay. All right, well, you know what? We're going to talk some more about this initiative when we come back. Is that all right?
That'll work.
We're going to take a quick break. All right, don't go anywhere. Stay tuned for more Get Connected.
So, Malcolm, you do know that energy savers last 6 times longer than ordinary light bulbs.
This isn't my room. It's Baron Davis's.
Baron Davis, the basketball player? This is his room?
Yep.
Interesting, because we have Baron Davis right here. Baron, do you live here?
No.
I don't mean that, Baron Davis.
Millions of kids are using their energy wisely. What's your excuse?
I'm a single mother of 2 kids. I work a lot. We do miss a lot. He dropped off for a whole month. Sometimes I would talk to him and he wouldn't even turn around and look at me. I just get frustrated because in any way that I talk to him, it just doesn't go through his head. I didn't give up because there's always hope.
Give your teen the boost they need to graduate. Call 1-877-4A-KID or join us at boostup.org for tips and advice.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Get Connected. Our guests are Christopher Figgs, the coordinator of PBIS, Anne-Marie Palmer, the principal at Warrenwood Elementary School, and Lisa Popish, a teacher at Alderman Road Elementary School. Now, we were just having such good conversation before the break regarding PBIS, and I learned that it's not a program, it's an initiative, a process, a framework. Now, how are schools chosen to be a part of such a wonderful framework?
Well, I'm really excited about that because Cumberland County is in a special place where we've never mandated to anybody that you have to do PBIS. If you go across the state, you will see where school districts are saying to their schools, you must do PBIS. The schools that have come on board with PBIS have been voluntarily. They would come to me, they would send me an email, Mr. Figgs, I'm really interested about this PBIS initiative. What is it about? How can it help my school? And I think because the principals who wanted it volunteered, they accepted it more. It wasn't something that was, you know, you have to do this and I'm gonna breathe down your neck to make sure that it gets done. Well, you know, when people come and do things on their own, then they're willing to do it.
To really, ownership. I know in talking with Anne-Marie before the show, she was saying that when she heard about it,
This is our 6th year.
6 years ago,
so
you were just chomping at the bit.
It was before Mr. Figgs had his job, and I was chomping at the bit, and they actually had a video showing some other schools in North Carolina using PBIS, and I brought it back to our school improvement team, and they jumped all over it. They were very excited.
From where?
We went to a workshop in Raleigh, and I think Ms. Popish went to a workshop as well.
Closing of the Gap, and that's where we heard about it initially, and came back and was wondering if the buzz was here in Cumberland County yet, and was just waiting. So as soon as we heard that Cumberland County was going to start this initiative, we were on board.
Now, PBIS, is it being used in school districts across the state, across the country?
Across the country, and it's actually becoming a nationwide, worldwide initiative. Just recently I heard about them doing it in Australia. So it's being adopted all over. There's in the Netherlands and in Germany, they have their own technical assistance centers that help them implement PBIS. So it's something that's worldwide.
Now, is there a cost to the school to be involved?
Well, initially there is no cost, and as Chris talked about earlier, it really is determined by what you plan on doing within your program. There are tons of rewards that are free to teachers and to schools. There are also grants that are out there, donations, those types of things. But our only expenditure is the actual dog tag that our students receive, which is a very minimal cost. We didn't have any startup costs. We spent professional development dollars, however, really sitting down, planning, and going to trainings. Those are where some of our dollars were spent.
Now, I know that when you bring in initiatives of this nature into your schools, you have to get buy-in from everyone, faculty and staff, because, I mean, it won't be successful, I would not think, if everyone is not singing off the same sheet of you know, music or what have you. How do you go about doing that?
I know initially, the very first, I like to call it a plug, is when that administrator calls me and they say, well, can you come and do an overview? And I tell them I feel like a used car salesman coming in, trying to tell them, PBIS, this is it. And I try to take as much energy as I can because, one, whenever you present anything to, especially teachers, who are professionals at everything they do. You know, you've got to be on the mark.
You've got to be on the mark.
You've got to be on the mark. So really taking that time to do the overview. And when I do my overviews, one of the things that I like to focus on is data. Data across the state, data across just our schools, and showing them out-of-school suspensions, in-school suspensions, how much time we're losing because of discipline. And when teachers begin to see that they can gain time back, and once they gain that time back, that means they're going to gain instructional time back. It's something, it's like, well, I need this. If this is going to help me get my test scores up and help my children improve, then this is worth trying.
Now, Lisa, did you, as a teacher, did you find that your coworkers felt similar to what Chris was saying?
Definitely. When we first started, we had 100% that wanted to give it a try, but when we actually started to implement the process, we had maybe about 80% participation. We now have, I would think we have 100%. Even as the new teachers come in, I think our new teachers are really excited that we have something in place that's going to help with classroom management.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Because teaching those routines and those procedures at the beginning of the year is most important. And we include it in our morning meetings, we give them lessons and lesson plans at the beginning of the year. And so I think because we've tried to make it as user-friendly, because the last thing a teacher wants to hear is, oh, I've got one more thing on my plate.
Right.
So we try to make it as user-friendly as possible and try to think ahead. What does a teacher need? And do it that way.
I think involving them in the creation of the process at your school is key, because when they have the opportunity to ask questions, give input, they take ownership of that program and that initiative as well.
Now, you know what's something that comes to my mind when you talk about ownership? I see the faculty and staff taking ownership of the program. I see the students buying in, but then there's a key element, the parents, the home. How do you bring the home, the parents on board? Because I'm sure there needs to be continuity in order for the behavior to stick.
And in order for PBIS to really work effectively, there's so many elements that include the parents that we have to bring in, especially when we start talking about teaching behavior expectations. Because we spend a lot of time telling parents there's a home behavior and then there's a classroom behavior. And we really want to make sure that they realize that at one point we need to mesh so that, it's all coming together. So we begin to have those conversations where we begin to let them know, this is what we're doing in the building. What can you do at home that's going to help your children be successful once they come back to the building? Can you teach and talk about what respect is, what responsibility is? And even then, as Ms. Palmer was saying, those dog tags that they had to get. So many times I tell them, when you need to get those kind of incentives and stuff, our community is such a great resource. And our parents are part of that community. Whether it's, I have a parent who works here and a parent who works there, what can you do to help us? And even getting that parent on the PBIS team, giving them that voice. If anything else, we know our parents are talking. They may not tell us everything, but they're talking. So now you have that parent on the team who is saying, well, I've heard that maybe if y'all tried this, or maybe this is available to you guys. So making sure that you're bringing them in as a partner so that they know that, PBIS is not just for the school, but it's to really help our community.
Okay. Now, what kind of training would school personnel have to have in order to, be a part of PBIS? I'm sure there needs to be some continuity even with that, certain ground rules or...
Did you want to tell about your training?
Well, I'll let you start and I'll kind of add on.
Okay, because what we do is we offer we call them modules. And in education we have all these beautiful words, modules and matrices. But we call them modules, and there's 3 modules, and they're all 2 days. And we choose a team from each school that comes through these modules, and we begin to lay down the foundation of what PBIS will look like in their building. And from there, they take the framework back to the schools, and they spend time just really ironing out, how's it going to look, how's it going to work. And we want it to work for not just our teachers, but we want it to work for our cafeteria workers, we want it to work for our bus drivers, we want to work for the front office staff. So we begin to talk about everything, because it's a school-wide process, not just a classroom process, as they have said. So even when we talk about the team, we're talking about teachers, teacher assistants, those resource teachers, cafeteria workers, that administration, you know, everybody who's going to come in contact with those children to make sure that we're all on the same page.
And the training modules really set the tone for that change in thinking, that paradigm shift that staff members need to have to really look at those positive behaviors rather than all the punitive that we normally tend to look at. So we've supplemented the modules with additional training within our own school by our PBIS team with the rest of our staff. So there's ongoing training that happens within the school to support the program.
And you know, it's something that came to my mind, and I know I'm looking at the clock on the wall and I see that we don't have a whole lot of time, but are there any consequences for negative behavior?
Yes.
There are.
Well, talk to me really quickly about that. Who wants to jump in?
One of the things that I like about PBIS is that I still have some autonomy in my classroom. And so for negative behaviors, I'll still have, you know, a look or a hand signal to remind them of what's appropriate. They have reflection time away from the class, maybe over at their desk, like a timeout. They also have a written reflection piece that they can write. And we have that based on a K2 reflection as well as a 3-5. In addition to some of the things that we would have to have in place depending on the severity of the behavior.
Now, you know what, I'm seeing where you all are both elementary ed.
That's correct.
But PBIS does extend to the secondary ed, you know, middle and the high school students,
and
correct?
we have both middle and high schools that are on board, and we're really excited, especially this year. We had a high school to come on board, and to see the number of office discipline referrals and suspensions decrease in that building so that more students can stay in the building and learn effectively has been a wonderful reward for us as a county.
That's good. That is real. That's excellent. And I know you guys are just excited about being a part of it. Hopefully we'll get 100% of our schools.
Yes, ma'am. Right now we have 9 schools who are actually state recognized, and both of these schools are state recognized PBIS schools, and I'm looking for 87 state recognized PBIS schools.
You're going for the gusto.
I'm going for it.
That's all right. Well, you know what? Like I said, I'm looking at the clock on the wall. Any last words about how successful PBIS has been?
It's been great. One of the things that we've really noticed is that schools that are implementing PBIS see a faster decrease in their office discipline referrals, and we need that. We need that climate, that positive climate, and using PBIS has been a great tool. It's not necessarily an intervention, but it gives teachers the tools that they need so that they can be successful.
Okay.
It really does change the climate in your school if it's used consistently and effectively throughout the building. Students take ownership of their own behavior, and you see staff members that are much more happy to be working in that facility and working with students who are just honestly happy to be at school and happy to learn, and they stay on each other really and expect each other to do the right thing as well.
All right.
And I think it goes back to that adage of they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I think PBIS is very good at building that classroom climate throughout the school, not just in the classroom, but the school climate as well. So they see we care about them, not just their academics, but that they become, you know, fine citizens, responsible citizens when they grow up.
That's great. Well, you know what? I'm, like I said, looking at the clock on the wall. I'm trying to do a million things at one time, but it's all good. Nonetheless, I see our time is up, but this has just been very enlightening.
Wonderful.
And I just hope that more of our schools will get on board and be a part of such a wonderful initiative.
Yes.
And you see, I went through the whole thing without saying program because it's not that.
It's not
It's not that. It's not that. Well, congratulations with that, and I wish you all much success, continued success.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, on behalf of the Cumberland County School System, we want to thank you for tuning in to this edition of our show and for giving us a chance to help you get connected. Until next time.